Are you looking for an internet radio station with a unique blend of talk radio and an eclectic musical flavor? Join Stardust Radio today at www.stardustradio.com, where talent and technology meet.
This internet station sounds great on your computer, but wouldn't it be even better if you could take it with you wherever you go? Now you can. This station is proud to be affiliated with the Mobile Broadcast Network, brought to you exclusively by Access Voice. They make it possible for you to hear your favorite internet station anytime, anywhere, on your cell phone. To get connected, go to www.mymbn.com and listen to internet radio on the go.
What America needs is affordable health insurance. Finding affordable health insurance for you and your family, it's on everyone's mind right now. If you're self-employed, it's on your mind too. One of the things we face as entrepreneurial Americans is finding affordable health insurance. Well, I found a company you can call right now and get affordable health insurance. Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee. Write this number down, 877-679-7794. That's 877-679-7794. Midwest specializes in helping entrepreneurs of all kinds, those of us who run small businesses or don't get health insurance where we work, to protect our families with affordable health insurance. Call 877-679-7794. Not available in all states. Association membership is required in most states. Home office, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Exclusions and limitations apply.
Alexis Parking, your aviation destination.
You need something grand, something special, something unique. Look no further than the Alexis Park Inn of Iowa City. There you'll find 27 supersized suites of all varieties, most with jacuzzis. The Alexis Park Inn is an aviation-themed hotel where your continental breakfast is delivered right to your door because they're committed to your satisfaction. Give the Alexis Park Inn a call toll-free at 888-9-ALEXIS or check out alexisparkin.com.
Alexis Park Inn, your aviation destination. Alexis Park Inn.
And now live from Riverside, Iowa, the future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk of the USS Enterprise. Another episode of Wake Up USA, a UFO study. Your host this evening, Joe Montaldo.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Wake Up USA, a UFO study, a Stardust Radio production, now being broadcasted live on SRN 1690, Riverside, Iowa. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone's having a great day, great night, great morning, great afternoon. I hope things are smiling and happy for everybody here on our great big blue planet. Tonight's guest is going to be Craig JACOCKS, I'm sorry, I pronounced that wrong. Should be an interesting case. I'm looking forward to talking to him. Also, Tammy, which is an ICAR member, will be doing the news tonight in a few minutes, and I will let her have the mic here in a minute. Guys, you know, David the other day, who's our ICAR Arizona state director, sent me a thing about the new name for the spaceship going to the moon. Now, Orion is a cool name and all, but really, shouldn't it have something to do with the moon? Really, it's going to the moon. Shouldn't it have? I'm just kind of old-fashioned like that. I don't know. It's one of those things that bothers me. It's trivial, I know, in the grand scheme of things, but it bugs me. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I said, well, that's a cool name, Orion, the spaceship Orion. I'm thinking, yeah, but we're not going to Orion. We're going to the moon. So, shouldn't it be like Moon 1 or something, or Earth? I don't know. It just didn't seem appropriate for a shallow space mission. If we maybe for the Mars shit, they could call it Orion or something, but I don't know. It just kind of sounded goofy to me, but I'm not going to complain. At least they're building something, so I won't complain about that. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to turn you over to Tammy. Tammy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Joe.
Well, it's all yours now, Boo, so the news is yours.
Okay, today I'm going to give a variation of different news articles. It's not going to all totally fall under ufology and space, but I thought they were interesting because in some ways they do help people. First one I'd like to cover is regarding information that was released today from the public regarding contact between the United States government, USG, and visiting beings from outside of our planet. The sources allege of the data are from alleged government insiders associated with the United States Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA. Through email streaming, there are persons within this report that are from the scientific communities as well as intelligence, military, and other backgrounds. The new release alleges that part of the process of getting people aware of space visitors is through a process called disclosure. It's a gradual, planned release type of information that's being given very slowly to the American and international public, and it's been going on for years. According to the information released, the visitors have made many contacts with authorities by actually landing in the United States for meetings. Overall, though, if you want more information on this, because it's very long, you can get it at a website, www.serpo, which is SERPO.org. Once again, that's www.serpo.org. In other news, alien hunters are pounding SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, with emails and phone calls this week that the organization is being accused of covering up the detection signals from space. Allegations of the SETI cover-up were made this past week on a coast-to-coast radio show hosted by Art Bell, by professional SETI watcher Stephen Greer, the CEO of the Space Energy Access Systems. He claims that insiders told him that SETI discovered a high concentration of signals from space, and then another organization stepped in and blocked all those signals. There have been numerous extraterrestrial signals, according to Greer, and apparently they were searching in a certain spectrum or area when they hit the mother lode. The signals were so numerous that they began to have their systems externally jammed by some sort of human agency that did not want them to continue receiving those signals. Even though there's been a lot of accusations and a lot of phone calls made regarding the claims, SETI still denies that anything has ever taken place. Okay, we're going to jump into news regarding one of the newer test models of a Navy swimming spy plane. Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, famed for the U-2 and the Blackbird spy planes that has flied higher than anyone else, is trying a different altitude record. The airplane, which actually ends its mission 150 feet under the water, and it also has short-range weapons surveillance equipment. It actually goes inside of the submarine, and it's inside the tubes. And these tubes are as long as a semi-trailer, and they're about 7 feet wide, and they're strong enough to withstand the pressures of 150 feet, but it's light enough to fly. What happens with this is the submarine lets this tube loose, and then that into the water underneath, and then that comes up, and then that opens up, and then the plane comes out. And then from there, rocket boosters fire, and the plane takes off. The plane's called the Cormorant. It's one of these test planes that they're testing for the Navy. The Defense and Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, is funding these tests and the unique systems of this plane, and the test should be completed sometime in September, and then DARPA will decide whether or not it wants to fund any more prototypes. Another fun, interesting happening in research is they're designing now a laser, which should be fully operational by 2009. And it puts most all of these other lasers that have been developed practically to shame. The system will be 60 times as energetic as NOVA, which generates 16 trillion watts. But achieving such intensity won't come easy. The hardware and electronics requires a space bigger than a football stadium. Now for the numbers. This laser has 192 laser beams, which will zing into a million-pound target chamber, 33 feet in diameter, with 20-inch walls. To prevent any radiation from escaping, the chamber is encased by walls that are 6 feet thick. Each 20-nanosecond laser burst will blast target materials in the chamber with 500 trillion watts of power, 1,000 times that of the electrical output of the entire United States over the same period of time. And the power is used for fusion research in astrophysics and in generating thermonuclear detonation for weapons research. Okay, the next thing I want to cover is satellite protection. There's a problem with the satellites if we have a nuclear war. Even though satellites are designed to protect Earth's communication infrastructures from an excessive highly charged particles in orbit, it could lead to communication blackouts across the globe lasting up to 10 days, according to scientists in the British Antarctic Survey, BAS, that's the abbreviation. The Van Allen belt, these are zones around the planet that already have high energetic particles. If a high-altitude nuclear explosion takes place, it would become so dangerous that the satellites, up to 90% of those in the low orbit, could disable within a month. Solar activity is also known to increase the number of particles in the belt, which happens when you have your sun flares. Things kind of go crazy. And it has been known in the past to, just from the sun flares alone, damage expensive equipment. But to have a nuclear issue, that gets even more dangerous. Excessive particles, let's see. In order to treat the problem of excess particles, the United States wants to try to dump them into the Earth's atmosphere, and using very low frequency radio waves to interact with the particles, and then when you dump them into the atmosphere, it's supposed to help clear the problem up. The problem is the atmosphere could be dramatically affected by such systems, causing unusually high frequency radio blackouts around the world. Solar activity does cause the rain to come down in the atmosphere, but the effect is usually confined to the poles. But what this idea would do is the mid-latitudes all the way down to the equator, which are very large populated areas would suffer from radio blackouts lasting as long as the system is active. Also, a lot of the GPS systems in remote communities could also use communications for up to 6-7 days. Okay. The next thing I want to cover, they're still working on this. The next thing I'd like to cover, though, is the FDA approves of virus as a food additive. This gets interesting, though. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved a bacteriophage, bacteria-killing virus, to be used as a food additive. The bacterium causes an infection called listeriosis, and it can be very serious and weaken the immune system, especially in pregnant women and in newborns. The viruses actually grow in vats of Listeria bacteria. They are designed to destroy and then are purified before use. The use of these bacteriophages will be regulated by the Department of Agriculture. However, consumers will not be made aware of the foods that have been treated. And Trilitex, a company responsible for the virus cocktail, initially applied for FDA approval in 2002. It says it has already signed licenses with one major food manufacturer, and it plans to market the phages worldwide. See, I got one other thing here. Now, for something very truly bizarre. Human culture has been significantly influenced by parasites that commonly infect cats, but it also targets humans. Populations with the parasites are very common. Mass personality modifications could result in cultural changes. University of California, Santa Barbara, Kevin Lafferty let loose a press release regarding this. It's called a toxoplasma. It may explain a substantial proportion of human population differences we see in cultural aspects that relate to ego, money, material possessions, work, and so on. It's a strange organism, but the parasite affects the brains, and when the brains of people and animals, and it alters their behavior. Humans eat toxoplasmas also, usually in washed vegetables. The most affected are pregnant women whose embryos can suffer from birth defects, and people with AIDS, the immune-compromised individuals, and also people that are going through chemotherapy. Most anybody else would have mild flu-like symptoms. The toxoplasma infection is actually quite common in humans, and it varies from region. About a third of Americans show antibodies to the parasite, while Brazil's number rises.
Oh, we're gone? I don't know. Had a little technical issue there with the telephone. Sorry about that, guys. I know that was her last one she was telling us anyway. I don't know. Sometimes the phone lines just drop. I know we're going to be bringing Craig JACOCKS on the phone in a few minutes, but guys, y'all need to keep up with a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of weird things going on our planet right now, and I noticed that most of the people I talk to don't have a clue, not even a clue. You know, the other day I was doing a bid for a lady. I was at her house, sitting there and doing some paperwork with her, and we got to talking, and somebody had told her that I do radio, and she asked me what it was about, and I told her about Wake Up USA, and we got to talking about it, and we got to talking about a couple of things that, we talk about regularly on this show, and I don't know what it was, but every time I told her something, she was like, what? Huh? What? I never heard about that. You know, we got to talking about a couple of things that we know the government did. She's like, it's like they're living in a whole different fantasy world. I don't even know what that is. I mean, it just sounds like a whole different fantasy world to me. These people just are in their little cocoon and don't really have any clue that any of this stuff goes on. It's kind of funny when you look at it because they really don't. I mean, not even a clue. They're just sitting there going, did this really happen? Did someone really see an alien spacecraft? Or people really being abducted? You know, it always amazes me that there's so many people on the planet that really haven't even heard about this, especially in the year 2006. But anyway, Jess informed us that we got a guest. So, Craig, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Craig JACOCKS. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to have you on the show this evening. Let me get you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, why you're involved in this, and then we'll start the interview from there.
Sure. Okay. Well, basically, I wrote a book called Aware of Their Presence, and it basically is about the experiences I've had since childhood, including sightings and abductions that pretty much started in my mid-20s. I'm now 40. Haven't had as much lately, but there have been a lot of intense and quite a few questions about some of the things that I've gone through. And apparently I may have some evidence that's actually inside of my body.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, there are two objects in my spine, and they have been x-rayed, and my doctors don't know how they got in there or what they are. So you can imagine how strange it was to have to explain to others, especially doctors, what I think these might be.
Yeah, they're actually... where are they lodged in your spine? I know I shouldn't start right here in the middle like this, but I'm just curious now that you said it, I had to ask. Where are they exactly located?
They're actually located toward the end of my spine, and there's one long object and one shorter one. They're both very needle-like. Now, actually, the surgeons that I talked to, they examined the x-rays, examined me and looked at the x-rays, and they basically told me that these can't be removed. So based on where they are, it's just a little bit too dangerous to remove them. Well, I guess I may be stuck with these for the rest of my life because I'm not going to take a chance at trying to get them out.
The reason I was asking is I've run across a couple of contactees that have scars at the base of their spine.
Yes.
Most of them, though, I noticed, and I have never seen you, so I really couldn't say, but most of them I noticed there was like 3 puncture marks. Occasionally you'll find something left behind. Unfortunately, I do know of 2 retrieved out of someone in Gulf Breeze, Florida, but the material wasn't anything of any consequence. I mean, you couldn't prove that it was anything other than an earthly bound material. It was very interesting what it was, and they said the way it was made was very interesting, but they had no idea why it was there. As far as they could tell, it didn't do anything. It's almost like, well, the doctor said it was almost like maybe the person had jerked or rolled suddenly and had snapped off a couple of fingers. That's what he called them.
Wow.
I'm not, like I said, this is sheer speculation we're talking about here, but what do you think they are?
Well, they could be anything from a type of tracking device, or they could be something that is actually, as far as I'm concerned, the ones that have been in my spine, for all I know, they may have been used to basically stop me from moving when abductions would start. I really have no idea. But I will tell you this. The only reason I found them was because they made electronic equipment malfunction where I work. Literally, I would back up on a laser scanner where I work. I sell men suits, by the way. And basically, the thing would bring me up. And I've had 3 witnesses see this happen. So what happened was the laser scanner would beep, the register would beep, we look on the screen and it would say error, UPC SKU barcode cannot be found in system. So ordinary metal does not set these things off. So I don't know if this is something that actually just kind of like went through the skin and read something, or if these objects are actually emitting something from my body. I have no idea.
Well, they must be emitting some kind of magnetic field or something. I mean, if it's binary is what most Bar's code scanners run on, and it's usually it's read with infrared through actually a couple of different means.
Right.
But that would suggest that whatever it was, it might not actually be a tracking device so much as a locator periodically. In other words, every now and then when you pass by a checkpoint, it might register that you're in the area. Because most of the tracking devices we've seen as far as the government goes, or more like the V-chip, along those lines, it's very sophisticated technology. It's very small, smaller than a grain of rice. Those have been pretty common for about 15 or 20 years. Locator devices, on the other hand, are different. It's like they're tracking a particular group of people for a particular reason.
True.
And it's kind of like a control group, I guess, would be the best way I could explain it. But that's really what it sounds like. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that's what it is 100% because I really don't know enough about your case to even say that. But so far, that's what it sounds like it is. It really does. Because basically, from what we can figure out from all the contactees we deal with, is ET tracks you through your DNA, physically through your DNA. So there's no need of a physical device to track you. They do use certain devices for certain things, but not for tracking people. They've always, from what I understood, tracked us through our DNA. So that's interesting. And I did find out recently, thanks to one of our newscasters, that our government is actually working on that technology. To be able to track you by your DNA, ladies and gentlemen, that should be interesting. A couple of satellites, a couple of DNA samples, and they'll always know where you are. It's better than your cell phone, because that's what they use to track you now. I guess I shouldn't have said that on the radio. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I'll retract.
Yeah, you said it, I didn't.
I'm going to just retract that last statement. So, I mean, you just... Well, let's backtrack now. How did they actually get there, or how do you think they got there?
Well, you spoke of of scars before, and I actually do have a scar toward the waist, toward the back of my waistline, and on my back. And it was kind of discovered actually a few years ago, back in the mid-'90s, and nobody really knew what this was. But before I got the x-rays done, I did show my doctor this same scar, and even she kind of looked at it and said, well, you know what, that kind of does look like an incision scar of some type. And right after that, she ordered the x-rays, and I went right downstairs and got them done. So apparently, now I vaguely remember something where something was involved with my back during an abduction experience, but it's very vague. I don't really remember much of that. But I will say this also: there have been there were 2 objects that were removed from my right knee that were almost exactly the same as these. this happened during my childhood, and they look so much the same that I can't help but wonder if it's just the same group that did it. But again, this is when I was a kid, and now I'm 40 years old and finding these things.
Well, yeah, and that's oh, you're in your 40s. That's interesting in itself. Just so you know that I am a contactee. I'm probably the only one besides Whitley that actually does host radio. And some people ask me why. I don't really just talk about it much because actually what I do these days is I'm National Director for ICAR, which is the International Community of Alien Research.
Yes.
And we specialize in abduction research. That's what we do. Now plus 7,000 cases under our belts as a group. Probably have a very unique understanding of contact. We have online support groups, actually quite large online support groups, that we sit and chat. I mean, you'll actually see some nights 20, 30, 40 actual contactees in the same place discussing what's happened to them, how it's happened to them. And it's actually such an amazing research tool because you can sit there and listen to these people. And you, half the time, you know what they're going to say before they say it, but they'll just start describing procedures, things that have happened to them, particular reasons ET does particular things. We've learned over the years that you can actually help program the contactees to acquire information, to learn how to use some of the gifts. It's been a very interesting thing, I have to tell you. It started out for me 23 years ago. I thought all these people were flipping Looney Tunes. And I had no idea that I had ever had any type of contact either, by the way. I didn't find that out until much later in life. And I'm just cruising through life. A very close friend of mine told me they were an alien abductee, and I looked at him and said, if I didn't know you as well as I do, I would have think you have lost your flipping mind. And then they started introducing me to other people, so I started doing research, and probably 1 out of 10 of them turned out to be legitimate. But, I joined MUFON. I was with MUFON as one of their field investigators for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for Gregory Avery, which is out of Louisiana. And I was with him for a while, and I started sending information into MUFON along with several other abductees who were doing abduction research. And this wasn't too long after John Slushla had took over. And we just stopped getting responses. And then when we go look for the information, you couldn't find it. It was just gone. So one weekend, a bunch of us got together, pooled all the information we could find since pretty much their conception, which was almost 5,000 cases, and put them all together. Set up a line of abduction criteria, and then since then have been going with that criteria along with anything new we learned and interviewing contactees. And that was 12, 13, 14 years ago.
Wow.
When we tell you 7,000, we're being very modest in the amount we talk to, because at any given time, if we're hosting online, now, granted, a lot of people who come in are just full of, we're not even going to get into what they're full of, but that's what they seem to be. But occasionally you do run across people who are legitimate contactees. And, we do things now like keyword searches on the individuals. We actually are gotten quite good at retrieving memories without the use of hypnosis, which we will use if we have to, but we usually won't. We usually don't have to. We have several groups of people that work with several groups of people to help understand their contact, how to acquire information, even how to basically change the type of contact they have. I haven't found anybody who can stop him yet. Darrell Sims swears he can, but me and him we're still arguing about that.
Right. Yeah. It's very hard to stop. You have no idea when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. So
it is, and but Darrell, I don't know if you ever met Darrell. No, he's a really nice guy. He really is, even though he is former CIA. He is a really nice guy. But fundamentally, that's where him and myself disagree. Is that he says that he can get mad and stop a contact. Everybody I've ever heard that got mad at the extraterrestrials really didn't like what happened afterwards, so I'm just amazed that he was able to stop it. And I have asked him, because he has been on this radio show on 6 occasions now, if he would let me regress him or have him regressed. He just won't go for it. Because he tells me his son and his grandson are still being contacted. So for me, I'm trying to figure out, well, Darrell, if you can stop them, why can't you stop your son and your grandson?
Right.
And why are they just skipping you and going to them? I'm thinking Darrell can't handle it, so they're blocking it out. But how much, in your honest, and I know we're getting close to the break here, but honestly, how much of the contact experience do you think that you, let's just say that you retrieve or you keep?
I would say actually a good amount of it. A lot of the things happen right in front of me, and it almost seemed at sometimes that they really wanted me to see it. They wanted me to see what they were doing. So now there are only a few things that I can't remember, but for the most part, I can remember most of it.
Well, no, that's excellent because I know a handful of people who have quite good recollection when it comes to this. They're kind of like conscious observers to me. There are some people, for some reason or another, and I think this has to do more with the individual than it does anything else. These people seem to be able to deal with this in real life and still be okay and still do all right and still take care of their families and still be able to go out and talk about this and maintain a career without losing their mind.
Right.
And still be convincing to the people they're talking to. I really think that is, they look for those people. I really, truly do. There's only a handful of us on the planet anyway, and I really think that that's what they're looking for. You know, it helps them get the bad word, agenda across.
Right.
it keeps them moving on. It really does. But I know we got to be getting right up on the break here. I got like 50 million questions I want to ask you, but I don't want to.
Sure.
I don't want to get you in the middle of them, and then we go to break, and then I'll forget what I asked you.
Okay.
That's never a good thing. But anyway, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. So I want everyone to please stay tuned to Wake Up USA, a UFO study, a Stardust Radio production. Now being broadcasted live at SRN 1690, Riverside, Iowa. I'm your host, Joe Montaldo, and I'm sitting and speaking with Craig JACOCKS, and as soon as we come back, we may start taking some questions, so please stay tuned.
Are you looking for an internet radio station with a unique blend of talk radio and an eclectic musical flavor? Join Stardust Radio today at www.stardustradio.com, where talent and technology meet.
This internet station sounds great on your computer, but wouldn't it be even better if you could take it with you wherever you go? Now you can. This station is proud to be affiliated with the Mobile Broadcast Network, brought to you exclusively by Access Voice. They make it possible for you to hear your favorite internet station anytime, anywhere, on your cell phone. To get connected, go to www.mymbn.com and listen to internet radio on the go.
Quicken Loans knows when your mortgage payment is too big, it follows you everywhere.
Hey, guys, where we going?
Hi, Big Mortgage. Dad and I are going car shopping.
Not without me.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
A mortgage payment that's too big can drive every financial decision you make.
Scooch over, little man. The Big Mortgage is your dad's constant companion.
Dad, the Big Mortgage is squishing me.
I'd really like to get a bigger car.
The Big Mo says no.
Don't let your big mortgage payment push you around. Pick up the phone and let Quicken Loans show you how to lower your payment up to 33%. That's a third off your payment. Call 800-928-5199. Quicken Loans makes it fast and easy to say goodbye to your big mortgage payment.
You're not the boss of us.
R2.
Are not.
R2.
Are not.
R2.
Am I going to have to separate you two?
Call Quicken Loans at 800-928-5199 today. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. Call Quicken Loans at 800-928-5199.
Alexis Parking, your aviation destination.
You need something grand, something special, something unique. Look no further than the Alexis Park Inn of Iowa City. There you'll find 27 supersized suites of all varieties, most with jacuzzis. The Alexis Park Inn is an aviation-themed hotel where your continental breakfast is delivered right to your door because they're committed to your satisfaction. Give the Alexis Park Inn a call toll-free at 888-9-ALEXIS or check out alexisparkin.com.
Alexis Park Inn, your aviation destination. Alexis Park Inn.
Climate change could affect our way of life, reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, and help control climate change. Visit www.vcr-mvr.ca. Brought to you by the Voluntary Challenge and Registry, Climate Change Central, and this radio station.
SRN 1690 AM, Riverside, Iowa, and around the world on the Stardust Radio Network. www.stardustradio.com.
You're listening to the Stardust Radio Network, where talent and technology meet.
Good evening and welcome back to Wake Up USA, a UFO study, a Stardust radio production, now being broadcasted live on SRN 1690, Riverside, Iowa. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Craig JACOCKS, to the show. It's been an interesting conversation so far. I hope y'all know who I am by now. So, remember, too, ladies and gentlemen, you can always come to the Pal Talk Virtual Auditorium to ask your question, or you can use the toll-free number at 1-877-213-4329. Again, 1-877-213-4329. Just wanted to let y'all know that. I was told that the virtual auditorium is maxed out. So if you do want to get in the question, if you're not already in the virtual auditorium, you will have to use the toll-free number. Again, that is 1-877-213-4329. And on that note, we're back. So, Craig, I know we were on 50 different things before we actually went to the break. And then I hit you with a whole bunch of stuff at the break. But for me, what I really truly want to know is, first off, when did you realize that you were having contact? And the next two things I want to know after that is, what has it done for you? What's the best thing you think it's done for you, and the worst thing you think it's done for you?
Well, the first time I realized I was having some kind of contact actually was a UFO sighting when I was, again, very young. And this happened on a trip to Alabama with my mom and my sisters. And it almost to the point where the thing appeared, and it was very close, and it disappeared. It disappeared as soon as it, pretty much showed up. But myself and my sister, we both saw it, so I had a witness with me. But it wasn't until my mid-20s where I started having memories of that sighting, and the memories were very strong, and I didn't know why they were happening. I mean, I would literally be in the middle of work and start thinking about that sighting. Well, soon after that, the abduction started, and then I knew that there was a connection to, that sighting. And trust me, that first abduction experience was the hardest one I've ever dealt with. But as far as now you said, what, the best and the worst that I've...
Best and the worst.
Well, okay. The best thing basically is that I've had a chance to talk to other people who have had this, because many people are afraid to talk. And I do speeches on this. I've been doing speeches about my experiences and the subject for about 12 years now. And a lot of people approach me, and they've never talked to anybody before. So I kind of give them the impression that, I stand up there and I talk about it, and I really freely talk about it. And they respect that, and they feel happy about it because they feel like they can identify. And the shield, falls down, and they go ahead and start talking about it. That's the best thing, because I feel like I'm helping others. The worst thing basically is having to deal with the cynics. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of people who really just don't want to deal with this at all. But the fact of the matter is that when you strip it all down, really what we're talking about are people who, and I'm not trying to be mean, but there's cowardice involved here. I mean, there's a difference between trying to discover something and denounce something. And when people keep denouncing over and over again and make a career out of denouncing the UFO subject or anything dealing with it, that to me is just kind of pathetic personally. But again, I don't really want to put them down too much, because I can understand some of the skepticism, but some of these people I've really attacked. But I've gotten to the point I'm very confident about what I've seen, what I've gone through, and what I wrote. So it doesn't bother me what they have to say.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me get right back to that. First, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Pal Talk. They came in and expanded the virtual auditorium tonight, so y'all can squeeze more people in here, so that y'all can harass Craig about what's happened to him. So again, I want to thank Pal Talk for that. And Pal already knows I think they're the best chat service on the internet, so they don't even have to worry about that. We all advertise for you. That's why we're all here. Craig, I was listening to you talk, and, I've actually heard a couple of people almost tell me the same thing you just see. This always weirds me out about contactees. It really does. Now, I'm going to kind of swing around on you again. Have you ever experienced, empathic abilities or psychic abilities?
Well, I've had other experiences that were not necessarily connected to, or that I didn't feel were connected to the UFO experience, but not as often. I mean, for the most part, it's been the abduction experience and the contact experience. There have only been a couple of incidents, but they've been fairly strong as far as other abilities. I don't even want to say abilities. I would just say other instances or incidents of psychic phenomena.
Well, the reason I was asking is we found out over the years. First off, we've never met a contactee that wasn't empathic. they're all empathic. Most of them really don't have a clue what empathic is, or even if they have it or they don't. After you interview them, and actually after they start dealing with other contactees on a regular basis, then they start to realize it. Quite a few of them I meet are very telepathic. A matter of fact, and this will weird you out. If you ever get a chance, you'll have to come visit this support group. You'll get in this room some night, Gary, and Craig, and you'll be sitting there just listening to them talk, and all of a sudden you will realize that they're answering each other before the question is actually asked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing thing to watch. It really and truly is. And, I've had the fortune now, and over the last 7 years especially, to deal with large groups of contactees. As far as I know, we're the only research organization that actually deals with contactees in this method. And we do get together, even at the conferences, we get together in fairly decent-sized groups. And it's amazing to watch these people, because they just start talking, and then all of a sudden the information just starts flowing. And we really try to record a lot of this, because a lot of times it's so much information that if you're sitting there trying to absorb it, you're going to lose half of it. Because one will say one thing and you say, whoa, wait, and I've heard this 100 million times, and then and it just goes on from there. And, when you deal with this, look, for you, when the ETs are dealing with you, first off, let me ask you this. I should ask you this a long time ago. What type of extraterrestrial you think is contacting you?
Well, I guess you would have to call them the Greys, the ones that people typically see. Now, one thing I do want to point out now that you brought it up, I have not had the traumatic type of experiences that a lot of people describe, even though there are some themes that are the same. But for some reason, I have not been, again, traumatized or really afraid of this. But on the other hand, there's some things that are disturbing about it that we can go into a little bit later. But let's just say everybody's experience is different with this. And I think, again, like you mentioned earlier, sometimes it's just personalities and individuals and how they perceive things.
Well, it is a lot of times. A lot of it really is. And something we found out from this is about 90% of contactees, so we're going to leave this other 10% out there, but we'll find that the contact always starts before birth. And most people want to say contact starts around ages 3, 4, 5, which is true, because that's the first time you physically remember them. But we've had too many pregnant mothers abducted, so we know now that the abduction actually starts before birth. And pretty much runs through your entire life. We've also found out that children, about 95% of them, have no fear of these extraterrestrials at all. Matter of fact, I have heard many, many kids say, my little friends came to visit, whether they were Greys, reptilians, or humans, which amazes me. There just seems to be no fear there. Matter of fact, I really don't find the fear factor enter until they enter puberty, and it usually runs through puberty and into their late 20s. And then after that, the fear factor seems to go away. And from what I understand about a lot of the experiments being conducted in the prime breeding age is basically what we're talking about here. Yeah, some of them are pretty rough, and some of them are probably pretty horrific to humans, that this is being done to because they don't understand it. But you still even find in that group that it's not as overwhelming for some as it is for others. And a lot of it is perception. It's the way you perceive things. And if you realize that, they did something that kind of wasn't all that pleasant, but they did put me back intact, and I'm fine now.
Exactly.
So as long as you can relate those, it seems to work out much better for individuals. And that's what it sounds like for you as well. And, and then there is some people that just block out those contacts in the 20s, and there are some people that don't have those experiences. And that's what made me originally, now that you said that as well, and what we were talking about earlier, it sounds like you're in one of the control groups, where they actually keep, from what I can tell, and I could be way wrong about this, but from what I can tell, there are several of these control groups that they use. They're using them to check against what they're doing with the other contactees. And they're just as important as the other contactee. It's just one's being done one particular thing and the other is something else, and they use them to compare. And it's, for whatever their agenda may be, in which there's a million speculations about that particular thing.
True.
But that's what it seems like. And maybe you are, maybe you're not. It's hard to say. It is fascinating, though, especially knowing that you've had contact with the Greys. Now, I can tell you from most of the people I've talked to, once they reach their 30s, they seem to have a much different style of contact than in their 20s. And then a lot of them, to be honest with you, Craig, don't even remember their contacts in their 20s. And it may be because they were bad contacts. It may be for a whole host of reasons. Let's be honest. Most men and women in their early teens and early 20s are pretty much preoccupied with other than extraterrestrials. Well, we'll leave it at that.
Right.
So it is apt that some of this stuff will get lost and pushed to the side. But in your case, it sounds like you have a pretty good handle on it. It doesn't sound like it's scaring the living daylights out of you. Are you married?
Yes.
Your wife knows?
Oh, yeah. Well, she got, well, I don't want to say firsthand experience, but she did experience something on our honeymoon when a UFO showed up not too far from our hotel room.
Well, that makes it easier. That makes it easier.
Well, it did, because, I mean, this way it's like, I could say, see, look, look at this thing. It's hovering right outside of our hotel room.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that my wife is actually, that's one of the first people I ever started studying. That's how I learned about contactees, one of the ways. But I've been very lucky with that. But, I don't know how long you've been in the field itself and speaking about this, but you see, now is not a bad time. In the United States, people are actually starting to listen. And the rest of the world kind of pays attention. But, when we started in this, man, people looked at you like you done lost your mind. What did you just say? Alien? Oh, what are you talking about? Illegal alien, aren't you?
Oh, boy.
No, but it was just kind of funny. And, I was talking with Walt Ahrens. He was on the show a couple of weeks back, and, actually a couple of months back. And we were talking about that and how it was when he founded MUFON and how it is today. And he said if he could have founded MUFON, if it would have been like this when he founded MUFON, it would be, a phenomenally large organization these days.
I agree.
It's just, and it is more acceptable in the overall thing. Now, well, you know what? Let me let the audience get a question in here because I know I'm being a hog, and then I'm going to just come right back to it. Let's see who we got up first. We got Linda Keeper up first. So, Linda Keeper, why don't you give us your first name and location, and you're live in the air with Craig JACOCKS.
Good afternoon, Mr. JACOCKS, and thank you so much for being a guest. It's seldom that we have an abductee that will actually come in and speak about his or her personal experiences. I want to know, since you've gone public with this and actually started talking to groups of people and written a book, has your contact experience gotten heavier, or has it sort of dwindled away?
That's interesting.
Well, it's a good question, and to be very honest, excuse me, it has slowed. It almost seems as if there's almost like I'm being watched, and they kind of don't want to disturb what what the process is. So to be very honest with you, it has slowed down. I haven't had the abduction experience actually for quite a time now. I mean, considerably anyway, for someone who's gone through this. It's been actually maybe about a year and a half or 2 years since I've really had something happen to the point where I'm taken out of where I am. But it has slowed down, and it does seem like in a way that I'm kind of being watched. But in a sense, it's funny because every time I kind of feel like something is, every time I think things are kind of quiet, something strange happens. And this last time it had to do with these two objects in my spine. So it seems like every time, I decide, well, I'm going to take a break from it, or, well, it slowed down, I'm just not going to worry about it too much, something like this happens. So you always have to be on guard.
Actually, that's very interesting you said that, because for the contactees, well, I like to call them working contactees, because they're actually working in the field or having something to do with this. I notice when they leave this alone, they start having, a lot of them just start having weird stuff, but a lot of them seem to have, unfortunately, runs of bad luck. We'll just call it that. And as soon as they get back on track, their lives seem to straighten right back up. I'm not, at first I thought it was a coincidence. I'm thinking, this has got to be a coincidence, but personally, I know how it is with myself. If I start slacking off from the areas that I feel like I should be working on through my contact experience, things start changing in my life as long as I seem to stay on course. My life seems to stay right with everything else, which I find interesting. It's strange, and it seems that this is regular in contactees that are working in the field or having something to do with getting the word out, I guess would be the best way to call it. Because I don't want to say message, because there's really not a message here other than the fact that the planet's being visited, people wake up.
Right.
Other than that, there's really not a message. But anyway, I know I'm hogging the gas, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to get some more questions. I see the text scrolling by. So we got a We Won One. We won number one, huh? We won one. Why don't you come up and give us your first name and location, and you're live and on the air with Craig.
Hi, I'm Wee One. I'm from South Dakota, and I have a question. You talked about the 20 and 30-year-olds changing their, having a different change in contacting. What about people who are over 50? Have you heard anything about if it dwindles away or if they have more?
Oh, now see, I guess that was, okay, maybe that was aimed at me. Well, we'll both take a shot at this question.
Well, you know what, actually, I only heard about half of that question. Could that be asked again, or could you tell me what that was again?
Well, I heard the last part about if contact seemed to wane in people over 60. I didn't hear the first part. It seemed to be very low. So, if you want to come back up, you can, Boo. You want to give it another shot? If you do, give me a 1 in text, and I'll let you come back up and give it another shot. As far as the thing over 60, that has to do with the individual. It really does. I find that people over 60 that are, you know, spry and moving and not ready to give up on life yet, those are the ones, their contacts seem to be consistent and steady with whatever else is going on. But one thing you can count on people over 30, and this is for everybody over 30, they start giving you downloads. In other words, there's not as much need for physical contact unless you're a keeper. If you're a keeper and you're helping with the physical contactees to transfer, you know, bringing them around when they're bringing them awake and stuff on the ship, the keepers actually do that, and that's a group of people who do that, and we know quite a few of those. But for most of us that are working in the field, what they're doing is they'll give us a download. In other words, if we start to wane, sometimes we'll just have a sighting. But usually we'll get fresh information every so often. They just download it straight into your heads. That's the best way I can explain it. And there are non-physical abductions for contactees once they get older. But the actual physical abductions tend to slow. And the more you're on course, the slower the abductions get. There's no need for them. The only time they ever seem to pick you up after, say, 40 is when you seem to get off course, and that's just to wake you back up. You know, any time other than that, since they keep a telepathic link with most of their contactees, they just download information when they need to, or they download what they think is pertinent to what's going on with that person. And that seems to work just as well as anything else. I don't know, Craig, have you ever experienced that?
As far as like a download type thing?
Yeah.
To some extent, yes, and I agree that it does seem like the physical part of it seems to be early on, as far as in the 20s, maybe adolescence to the 20s, and then after 30, it does seem to get to the point where it's more of a more that you're starting to see things, and you know, it's almost like you're being taught things, as opposed to, okay, we're going to lift you up, take you out, we've got to examine you again. It does seem to be like there is a shift in the in the entire experience in that sense. So I would agree with that. And to be honest with you, I've talked to other people who are a little bit older, and it does seem like they get that kind of contact as far as like a download type as opposed to a physical type.
Yeah, and that's most of them. And then we have what they call, and I don't know if you've ever experienced a non-physical abduction. All of those are... In all reality, it is an abduction of your mind. Your physical body is just stayed behind. They just put you, I guess it's like an imaging chamber or something, because most people think it's a real abduction until they start regressing them or start recovering memories and they realize, well, wait, I was hollow. I could move through walls and stuff. And I'm not talking about when they were being abducted like when the Greys take you. This was something more like a hologram thing. And we've had quite a few of them explain that to us now. And that's an interesting development over the years. But, you know, the Greys especially seem to change from time to time. You know, there used to be all of this missing time, and then all of a sudden people started having gain time. They were gaining 10 and 15 minutes in an hour, sometimes even a day. You were like, what the world's going on now? So, you know, and these are things we tried. Matter of fact, we broke the gain time ICAR. Well, actually, ICAR didn't. Me and two of my colleagues did about 12 years ago. And actually, no, I'm sorry, 1990, 16 years ago. And because we kept running across these people, and then we actually started getting physical evidence, like tickets wrote an hour before the person was abducted. I mean, an hour before the person was brought back, and actually left to go to the place to be abducted. It was actually, the ticket was already on their car from being in that area, which is weird. Then there's a lot of little things like that show up. But anyway, let me get some more questions in, because I see you're just stacking them up, Greg. That's a good thing. Let's see who we got up next. Donna Boo, I see you've been patiently waiting with your hand up, so why don't you come up and give us your first name and location, and you're live and on the air with Craig.
Hi, I'm Donna. I'm in DFW, Texas. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
I noticed that some seem to be astral projected type of abductions and some more physical. Yours sounds a lot more physical. And I was wondering, do you think perhaps if we did kind of like a hypnotherapy to get abductees to maybe remember more or be more aware in their abductions, do you think that's a type of concept that would work to help a lot of these abductees have a better experience, or at least, more informative afterwards? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do believe that hypnotherapy can be a help, and the only problem I would say sometimes is that it depends on who's doing it. You almost need somebody who, you don't almost need somebody. You do need someone who will be objective about it, who's not slamming the whole UFO thing, but who doesn't just totally embrace it either. You need somebody who's going to be a little bit more, straightforward about it and just listen to you. But, as far as hypnotherapy, I don't have any problem with that. Like I said, only in the sense that, if somebody's trying to break a case or break a story, and I don't know, that's the only time that I get a little bit, leery of hypnotherapy. But I do believe that it can definitely help in retrieving some of the memories.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it does help. We use it as a last resort, and we are very, 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 very strict on the way we allow. While we're on the subject, I'll give y'all a quick rundown on how we actually do a regression. The first regression first thing we're going to tell you is bring somebody you trust implicitly, husband, wife, daughter, son, best friend, whoever, but somebody you trust beyond approach. You bring them with you. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sit you down, we're going to introduce you to the hypnotherapist, get you feeling comfortable. They're going to regress you. The only thing they're going to ask you is what happened on a particular date that you gave us. And then we're going to ask you to describe that event both forward and backward. And then we're going to stop right there at the tape. We're going to bring you out of it. We're going to take you and your friend and me and one of the other investigators and the therapist, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to formulate a line of question that has nothing to do with words like extraterrestrial or UFO or spacecraft or anything like that. And then we'll go back with those line of questions and re-regress the person if we need to, because about 90% of the time, when a person remembers like that on the regression, you don't need to put them under again. They usually retain most of that memory. But I'm going to tell y'all, like I tell everybody else, do not regress. Don't even try to remember things if you're not ready for this, okay? And in reality, if you're physically and mentally not ready for this, when you learn this information, it is liable to do you way more harm than good. Take it gradual, learn about it, understand it, understand the contact experience for what it is. And at least when you do come to your awakening period, which is what we call an awakening or coming out of the closet, whatever you would like to refer to it as, you'll be more comfortable with it, and you'll be easier to deal with. You won't be flipping out, because contactees, a lot of them, and this is prominent in the contactees and abductees, I should say in abductees, 50% of abductees have some type of abuse problem, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever, but they have some type of abuse problem. So you need to deal with this. You don't need to lock it away in a closet, but you need to deal with it at a specific case and as much as you can handle. Some people can handle more. A lot of people these days, are multitaskers by nature, and things that would normally scare the daylights out of others may not scare them. And, it just makes it easier for those people. They can deal with it, and they accept it more readily. I tell you all the time, never believe you're a contactee, never believe in aliens, because this is not about God. This is not a belief system. You either know that there's extraterrestrials or you don't know. There is no in-between. I don't know. What do you think, Craig?
Well, that's true. I do believe that they're, obviously, very real, but I do try to avoid people who put them into the friend or foe category or the angel or demons thing. I can't listen to either side of that. The best thing to do is to stay neutral on it. As much as it can be a troubling experience for some, and it can be an exciting experience for others, but the fact is that you have to remain neutral. We haven't done really enough, as much research that has been done. The main scientific research, the mainstream ones who keep denying this, they haven't really gotten involved in this yet. And we need a little bit of everything, a little bit of everybody to kind of be involved in this. but I would not go into this fight about the angels and demons yet. I would not do that.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't either. Oh, I don't even want to get into the angel and demon thing.
Well, so many people start preaching to you about it one way or the other, and I mean, you're just looking for help if you're an abductee or contactee, and you're, looking for somebody to talk to, and yet somebody wants to, hit you over the head with, either something with flowers all over it or with something that is such a slam that you want to hide. So.
Oh, and look. All the time, and it's so hard because when we go to conferences and stuff, and people come up to us, and then they're like, and I'll have someone just run up to me and tell me, it's a demon. They're fallen angels, and that's all y'all are seeing. And I'm like, really? What made you come to that conclusion? And then I'll make them mad because I'll look up at them and say, well, which God are we talking about? I know there's 1,001 of them, so please enlighten me so I understand what religion we're discussing. Ooh, they get mad at me too, but for me, that's how it is. God is a belief, extraterrestrials are a reality. But that's me personally. Now, for a lot of people, that may be, the other way around. In my case, it's not. In my case, God is a belief, and extraterrestrials are real. I've seen them. I've got enough. Even if I would have never, ever experienced this for myself, I have seen enough information and talked to enough people over the years to know this is a 100% real phenomenon. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. So I want everyone to please stay tuned to Wake Up USA, a UFO study, a Stardust Radio production. Now being broadcasted live in SRN 1690, Riverside, Iowa. I'm your host, Joe Montaldo, and I'm sitting and speaking with Craig Jacobs. And as soon as we return, we'll start taking some more questions. So please stay tuned.
Are you looking for an internet radio station with a unique blend of talk radio and an eclectic musical flavor? Join Stardust Radio today at www.stardustradio.com, where talent and technology meet.
This internet station sounds great on your computer, but wouldn't it be even better if you could take it with you wherever you go? Now you can. This station is proud to be affiliated with the Mobile Broadcast Network, brought to you exclusively by Access Voice. They make it possible for you to hear your favorite internet station anytime, anywhere, on your cell phone. To get connected, go to www.mymbn.com and listen to internet radio on the go.
What's happening? I'll tell you what. Kent Emmons here. How'd you like to spend a weekend in Branson for only $99? That's right. You and your family can now relax in Branson for only $99 or take the honey for a quick romantic getaway any weekend you choose. This amazing vacation offer includes 3 days, 2 nights in a great hotel, breakfast every morning of your stay, preferred show tickets, and hundreds of dollars in coupon savings all around town. You know, Branson, Missouri's got amusement parks, world-class golfing, beautiful lakes, endless shopping, and more live shows than Vegas. So give us a call now at 1-866-338-1410. Branson for $99. It's our way of saying thanks for checking out our beautiful new resort, the Grand Crown. Here's that number again, 1-866-338-1410. Toll free, 1-866-338-1410. Branson for $99.
If you're one of the millions of Americans that suffers from acne or knows a friend or a loved one suffering, please turn up your radio and take down this life-changing information. Introducing Epiclear, the revolutionary new advanced skin treatment imported from Europe, formulated to help get rid of pimples and prevent further breakouts. Great for all ages and most skin irritations, Epiclear is doing something that no other acne treatment formula has ever done. Ever. We're so confident that Epiclear will clear up your skin that we're willing to let you try it for free. That's right. You heard free, and we mean free. Over a $70 value delivered without a prescription right to your house.
Call now while free supplies last at 1-800-656-5993. Nothing to risk and everything to gain. Call Epiclear at 1-800-656-5993. That was 1-800-656-5993. Limit one order per household, please. Call 1-800-656-5993. Shipping and handling not included.
Alexis Parking, your aviation destination.
You need something grand, something special, something unique. Look no further than the Alexis Park Inn of Iowa City. There you'll find 27 supersized suites of all varieties, most with jacuzzis. The Alexis Park Inn is an aviation-themed hotel where your continental breakfast is delivered right to your door because they're committed to your satisfaction. Give the Alexis Park Inn a call toll-free at 888-9-ALEXIS or check out alexisparkin.com.
Alexis Park Inn, your aviation destination. Alexis Park Inn.
Climate change could affect our way of life. Reduce your greenhouse gas emissions and help control climate change. Visit www.vcr-mvr.ca. Brought to you by the Voluntary Challenge and Registry, Climate Change Central, and this radio station.
SRN
1690 AM, Riverside, Iowa, and around the world on the Stardust Radio Network. www.stardustradio.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Wake Up USA, our UFO study, a Stardust Radio production, now being broadcasted live in SRN 1690, Riverside, Iowa. I'm your host, Joe Montaldo, and then we're sitting and speaking with Craig JACOCKS tonight. And Craig, man, I've been enjoying it so far. Poor Craig had to get stuck in a conversation with me and Jeff a few minutes ago. His mind's like going, what were these guys talking about? That has nothing to do with UFOs, guys, and nothing like that. It wasn't anything, we were talking radio business, nothing important. But anyway, again, I want to tell Power Talks, thanks for coming and increasing the size of the virtual auditorium tonight. That was very nice of y'all guys. It allows a lot more people to get in here and ask questions since I see nobody seems to want to use the toll-free number. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really beginning to think y'all are scared of the telephone lines. I understand why European and Australian and New Zealand people come in and use the auditorium. I do, but pick up the phone, people, 1-877-213-4329. Really, Craig, I think they're scared of the phone. Everybody tells me that they like to use the virtual auditorium because it feels more one-on-one with the guest.
Oh.
And, look, I said something about the phone. Look at that. So we got John from the Netherlands in the queue. John, can you hear me? Oh, we lost him? Oh, that's one of those things. He'll call back. We're just going to move on and grab some. You got him back? Oh, okay. Well, that was fast. John, can you hear me?
Hello, it's John. Okay, it's working. Sorry, something went wrong.
Oh, okay.
My name is John Kudus from the Netherlands. I'm a regional director of ICAR, of Dutch-speaking countries, and I have a question for the guest, and that would be, have you ever had some premonitions or visions that has to do with coming towards, everything that has to do towards 2012 that is connected with the abduction phenomena?
That's a good question. I have not had anything that is specifically about 2012. They did seem to show some concern, though, as far as Earth goes, and they showed me a lot of different things. It was one of those cases of being able to sit up and look at what looks like a large screen and basically what looked like a kind of a, I don't know, like almost like a science class of Earth slides or something. And they were trying to kind of convey something about Earth and something that was going wrong. And it seemed like they were talking about the ecology. Again, this is something that I didn't retrieve as much as I would have liked to. But in the middle of all that, they mentioned something about themselves. They said our people became very sick. Now, I don't know if they were talking about because of Earth or they're talking about because of their planet or their people just specifically. But it was kind of a confusing thing. But I will tell you this. That was one of those incidents where prior to that, all I had were the examinations, the abduction, the examination, being brought back. This was the first time they had actually said anything, so to speak. And on this particular time, this is one of those areas where, again, I decided, well, I'm going to stay away from this. Maybe this isn't really happening. Maybe I'm just dreaming. Well, when they brought me back from this particular abduction experience, there was what looked like a handprint left on my bed sheet, and it was a very large hand with 3 fingers and a long thumb and what looked like a claw around the thumb. Now, I know that doesn't have anything to do with what exactly he said, but I thought I'd bring that up because I think that just was their way of saying, look, this is real, don't doubt this. But as far as anything, as far as the future itself, I haven't really seen anything, cataclysmic visions or anything like that. I have not had that.
Yeah, well, that's actually a good thing. We find that about about 1/3 of contactees, maybe a quarter, have what we like to call the Holocaust dream. And that dream in itself is kind of strange. And then we have a good 20, 25%, 35% that have what I like to call earth changes. John, I want to thank you for calling in from the Netherlands. I know that's not exactly a cheap call.
No, it wasn't. Wow.
So I like for you calling. Well, we do get a lot of people that call in. Usually they're the people from overseas. The show goes out to, I think it's 72 countries now. And so it's interesting, you know, when we have people call in from overseas and chit-chat with us. But I can see the virtual auditorium's full right now with questions. So you ready for some more?
Sure.
Okay, let's see who we got up next. We have Cy put up with your hand. So, Cy, why don't you come up, give us your first name and location, and you're live and on the air with Craig.
Yes, hello. First, I'd like to say I really appreciate your coming forward and telling your story. I
Thank
also
you.
do that, but I haven't written a book, and I'm very interested and very appreciative. And my question is, I guess you've received a download, or at least more than one download. I'd like to know if you recall any of the download or how you recall any of the download. I've also received some downloads, and I'm interested in your access to these downloads. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, you know, actually, what I've pretty much gotten in these, again, I never refer to them as downloads, but I'll refer to them as, since we're kind of getting used to it here, but what I've seen when they've shown me things is usually basically a very different location, but it looks like Earth, and I know it's not. I mean, I'll see things in the sky that don't make sense, and I've had this happen more than once. I don't know if this is what you would call remote viewing or not, or anything like that. I see, again, I don't want to make this sound like it's science fiction, because, I mean, obviously we can talk about these things, but, I mean, when you start talking to others, it does sound like science fiction, but I'm just going to tell you the way it happened. And from what I've seen, you know, it's almost as if they're trying to get maybe myself and some other people used to seeing a certain area, and I'm not really sure exactly why. And I hope it's not for a bad reason. I hope it's not because of something happening here on Earth where, you know, I have no idea. I really don't. But we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and actually, there's a lot of this in the ufology field, which is still, I don't like that word. A lot of weight. I really don't. It's one of the things that ICAR prides itself on is helping to change some of the terminology, because some of it is just ridiculous. And you know, we started pushing other ufologists a few years back to start coining to agree, not to disagree, because you know you're not going to agree on everything. You know, one of the things we push for is a united front in ufology. As an organization, we push for that. We're not saying that we should all agree on everything, but we do all agree that the planet's being visited, so we should be presented that way. Instead of in-house fighting and bickering, you should always see the ufologists presenting, yes, America, yes, world, we do agree that ET's visiting the planet. We may not agree on exactly what they're doing here or how they're doing it, but we do agree that they're here.
I agree with that, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to say I have seen a lot of the same infighting, and it's really just making us look stupid. Because again, you know, I mean, if you want to approach the science world with this, you know, you can't sit around bickering about, well, you said, you know, blah, 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 and you've got, you know, somebody's set of books saying that they're awful and that they're fallen angels, and the other one saying that they're actually just angels, period, and they're trying to save us. I mean, when you have these kinds of things, all it does is lead to more confusion, and if we're going to present this, we have to start finding what we agree on.
Yeah.
Instead of what we disagree on, and then present it, you know, and then just kind of go from there and let it grow, because the factions that we have that are just going at it all the time, it's ridiculous. It's hard for me to subscribe to any of them.
I've been very fortunate. As a researcher, you know, I stick to abductions. I leave all the rest of the stuff alone. I do have people inside the organization that work for me, and well, actually not for me. They work for the organization. It's rude to say they work for me. But, you know, they have their specialties. We all do abduction research because that's what the organization specializes in. But I was making a joke with Stan Friedman just a few weeks ago when he came up and got on the mic, one of the ICAR members. Matter of fact, our Southwest director came and got on the mic. Well, she knows as much as he does about Roswell. Maybe no more than he does about Roswell. And so it's interesting to listen to him speak. But for me, I know ET's here. So chasing UFOs is fine and dandy and fun, okay? And that's what it is for me. It's kind of an entertainment thing. It's not going to prove any more than it's proved in the last 50 years. It's going to prove that there's UFOs. The research needs to be done in the abduction field because that's where we're going to get answers on why the extraterrestrials are here, why they're performing some of the type of experiments they are, why they've been messing in our genome for over 6,000 years that we know of for sure. And that's only because that's how long man's been recording. If you want to count the cave drawings in Europe, 50,000 years they've been messing with our genome. So the thing about it is, you know, the only place we're going to get those answers is exposure to the extraterrestrials by asking them directly. And over the years, that's been the organization's goal. We talk to contactees. We help them to focus so that the next time they're having a contact, that they have a list of questions in their head. And believe it or not, ET seems to be forthcoming. I'm not going to say they don't lie, ladies and gentlemen, because by experience I do find that they don't always tell the whole truth. But a lot of times they are forthcoming with the information, and they will tell a contactee as much as a contactee can handle. And granted, most contactees, or probably not any contactees, can handle all of it, but there are some that can handle more than others. And by asking these questions, by having a multitude of contactees answer these questions without releasing this information, we start to see patterns. That's how we formulated abduction criteria. When, you know, someone will tell us something, and then we'll log it. And then we may hear it from 50, 60, 70 other contactees. Well, then we know this is something that's going on inside a specific contact group for a specific reason. And then you'll have those people ask questions, and most of the time they'll come back with the same answer. And without telling anybody the answer, that's pretty good. Granted, they are psychic. Maybe they're telepathic and picking it up from each other, but I don't think so. I think when they ask the extraterrestrial a question, the extraterrestrial's giving them the answer, at least as much as our brains can handle. Granted, I think we have a very limited capability in dealing with communication with them. And since about, what I've heard recently, about 98% of all the communication is in a telepathic image form, that's left up for interpretation to each individual. You know, is the cup half full, half empty? Are they even talking about that? Are they talking about the saucer holding the cup? That's all left up to interpretation. So you don't know how much of this information is, how accurate a lot of this information is because of the interpretations. And that's another reason that contacts are so skewed sometimes, because it's like, let me ask you this too, Craig. Have you ever experienced a weird color blue?
A weird, I'm sorry, say again?
The color blue. It's just a color blue. You may have seen it. You'll know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I have.
Okay. All right. See, well, that's because gray contactees should, because of that blue plasma. But this color, I have heard people describe this color, first off, in 50 million ways, in 50 million different shades, and then in 50 million different uses. And it took forever to even get a handle that this was some kind of blue plasma that the Greys use, they use on the humans, and the ship uses. And apparently it's used for other stuff besides that. It seems to be self-replicating, alive in the sense that it can grow its own self. But it took, I'm telling you, we had to ask this question over the last 10 years. I guarantee you we've asked this question 3,000, 4,000 times. And, you know, these are the answers that we're coming up with. And still, at this point, I'm not willing to say they're right. I'm just willing to say they're speculation. But anyway, Craig, you ready for some more questions?
Sure.
Okay, let's see. We got Gossamer 777 up with his hand patiently waiting. I was just talking about you a few minutes ago. Gossamer, why don't you come up, give us your first name and location, and you're live and on the air with Craig.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Jacobs. My name's David Andrew, and I'm the Arizona State Director for ICAR. And let me say, I've really been enjoying, you being on the show with us tonight. Thank you. Something I wanted to let you know is also I am a contactee myself. My earliest remembrances are from about age 4 or 5, and I'm 44 now. And a couple of my experiences, one, I'm fairly certain they tried to either teach me the remote view or to see if I could do it, if I could learn it. And on another occasion, they put a device around my waist, which basically allowed me to levitate just by thinking about it. And there were many of my experiences as a child that seemed to be geared towards testing any psychic ability or level of mental control I might have. And I was curious if you've ever had any experiences like that where they seem to be testing you to see what your ESP might be like or your level of mental control. Thank you.
Well, actually, I was going to say I didn't get a lot of that question either, but I got the gist of it toward the end of what he was saying there. There does seem to be sometimes a little bit of a testing kind of to see how you will do in certain situations or psychic situations, mainly with me, it seems to be more like the telepathy. Can you understand us? Can you, and try to talk back. And I mean, when I've tried to talk back and talk too loud with my mind, they've said basically you're too loud. So, I mean, but that seems to be the only thing that I've seen where I see them kind of in a way testing, like a testing pattern. That's the only thing that I've seen so far. I haven't seen anything that, I don't know, maybe if I went back on it, I could find out, and really think about it. But that's the one thing that kind of stands out to me as far as that goes.
Yeah, I know. David, oh, man, why don't you want to come up and try to ask some more of that question? Because I know there was more there than that, but for some reason you were very, very low, at least on my end. I don't know how Craig were here.
Yeah, no, I couldn't hear most of it either. I only heard little bits and pieces, and I heard the end, but that was really about it.
Well, let's give him another shot at it. Let's see if we can get this a little better. You ready, David? I'm going to let you come back up, so why don't you come up and ask your question again. Go ahead, David. You're live and on the air.
Somebody give me a 1. Okay. Mr. Jacocks, I was just curious. I am a contactee myself, and there were several occasions during my childhood where what they were doing seemed to be geared towards testing any psychic ability or my level of mental control. And I was just curious if you had experienced anything like that where they seemed to be testing to see what your psychic ability was like.
I see. Okay. Not so much in my childhood. To be very honest with you, in my childhood, they seemed to be more concerned about my health than anything else. It wasn't until later that I started to see some kind of a little bit of a test, or actually, not just so much as a psychic thing, but there've been other things that they've done where they kind of wanted me to concentrate on something, and then I have to kind of figure out what it is. For instance, I did write about this in the book. There was a constellation that they showed me. And they kept it, I mean, basically it was me sitting down and looking out honestly in space, and stars a little bit closer than they're supposed to be from what we're used to seeing on Earth. But some of the stars were almost kind of twinkling in a violet type color, and they kind of formed a little bit of a constellation. And I remember staring at that thinking, okay, I mean, I've never seen this before, but it seemed to me like they wanted me to very much focus on this. That focus kind of ended when one of them showed up behind me, and I remember turning around and kind of being jolted by it. But I did later on find what that constellation was, or at least I think I did, because it looked like the constellation of Taurus, which is not necessarily something that you hear a lot about in, well, sorry, I don't mean to use the term ufology, but that's basically what comes to mind. But the constellation of Taurus is fairly close as far as space goes to Pleiades, which you do hear about. So I don't know if they were trying to give me a little hint about maybe where they're from or where a hangout is, but that did seem to be the constellation that I saw. And it did seem like they were trying to make me to almost force me to concentrate on that. And the experience didn't end until I kind of, again, was kind of jolted by one of them walking up behind me.
Yeah, that experiences like that are kind of the ones that wake you up a little bit. When I listen to you talk, because I hear so many people talk about this, and it's nice to hear that, first off, that it wasn't bad experiences. That's just a plus, because a lot of people, when they describe their experiences, you're sitting there thinking, well, I kind of feel sorry for you. It's kind of a weird, kind of scary thing for a lot of people. I think in retrospect, like we were saying earlier, most people are scared simply because they don't understand what it is that's happening to them, or for that matter, why it's happening to them. And I think that's more important than what's actually going on, if they understand that, look, they're not going to kill you. They're going to do some things to you from time to time. But I try to make young contactees understand the ones, because a lot more people are waking up younger now. A lot of times, we didn't hear about contact cases till a person was much older. It seems to be, I guess, because there's more people out there speaking about this now, it seems to be a lot more people or coming forward, and these people are having a much harder time dealing with it. It seems to really wreak havoc in their lives. So, we're trying to help out as much as we can with the young people. Hey, look, guys, we want y'all to understand this and not to fear this, because, there is forward progress. There is things you can get out of this and use in your personal life. There's a lot of things, as a matter of fact, that you can take from your contact experience and actually really enhance your everyday life with it. And you not only can help yourself while you're doing it, you can help other contactees, and also help get the message out, or the word out, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, no, I totally agree with that. Basically, it's just to the point where now it's just like you were saying, as the years have gone by, the interest has grown, and you don't have to feel so isolated anymore. There are places that you can, find help, and people will talk to you. I mean, you can, find it through the internet. You can find it through a magazine that deals with the subject, even if it comes to that. But the fact that there's not so much shame with this anymore, there are a lot of people who are talking a little bit more about it. And let's face it, I mean, there are a lot of expos and people doing speeches and whatnot that you can actually go to, and clubs. So it's gotten to the point where, I mean, yes, it's still not really accepted by the masses, but I don't think that's really going to happen until real, again, the hard evidence is shown somehow. Quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, I do think the two objects in my body were put there by my visitors here, because based on the placement. It's not just the objects themselves, but the placement of them, the fact that they're in a very dangerous spot, to the point where a surgeon is saying that these should not even be, no one should even try to remove these, because you're going to get hurt. You're going to either go through paralysis, or you're going to lose major nerve centers. And I think that was done on purpose. And, you have to keep in mind, too, that I had the same two objects in my knee, which were a lot easier to get to. So it's almost as if somebody put them in there and said, okay, well, this way, we don't care whether or not you find them. We just don't want them messed with.
Yeah, they just don't want to mess with. And that's actually quite common. You'll find things like that. But usually, Craig, now not always, but I'd have to say in about 70% of the cases, that's usually our lovely Uncle Sam that does that. Yours, because of the type. Let me ask you this about them. When you've seen these things on X-rays, right?
Yes.
Okay. When you're looking at these, I mean, what are they? An inch long, 2 inches long, real fine, thin, almost like hair thickness?
Well, I would say no. They actually they're a little bit thicker than actual needles, but they're close. I mean, they look similar to that, except the shorter one is, obviously it's a lot shorter. But the longer one, I would say, has got to be at least 2 inches long, at least. Now, the fact that these are sharp objects too, again, I mean, the surgeon did tell me more than likely you have some muscle tissue around it that's kind of keeping them safe. So, but I mean, I have no guarantee whether or not they're going to shift or do something. Now, like you're saying, now I don't really get too much into that other conspiracy theory as far as, but let's say that you are right about who these, who else may have put these in here. Well, what's the reason? I mean, it's like, some people have suggested to me that there might be some human beings who already know that I've been contacted and they want to keep an eye on me because they want to keep an eye on them, if you can follow that.
Well, yeah, well.
So, I mean, I have no idea, really.
Well, there's actually a paper trail that shows that at least part of our government is aware of the contactees and are monitoring them. There's actually a paper trail for that through the Freedom of Information Act. The thing about it is in your case, I don't think that's what it is. Usually, like I said earlier on the show, usually the government implants are pretty much, you can tell what they are. It's pretty much, they're obviously human technology. And they're usually obvious in what they can do, and under a microscope, it's quite obvious what they are. You can even read out some of the stamps on the chips. So you can tell what they are. In your case, that's not what it sounds like it is. As far as the military abductions go, we know probably 1 out of every 1,000 contactees, maybe 1 out of every 100 if you want to get, if you want to believe every story. But it does seem like they do monitor some contactees for whatever reason. They do seem like they are monitoring them. And it's not just that. There have been occasions where people have got what everybody likes to call men in black on film. There's been several people who have been threatened not to have the implant removed because they would just put it back. And this was a human that told them this, not an alien. So I mean, it's actually fairly well documented these days. You know, and I have been talking with Melinda Leslie about it, and Leah Haley, and a few others about their take on military abductions. They have a much different approach on it. You know, I've been working with them, and they've been saying that the government is abducting contactees so that they can backwards engineer the contactee. In other words, try to learn something about the aliens and their technology about
through the contactee.
Through the contactee.
Right, and that's kind of what I was kind of alluding to there on that. And it wouldn't surprise me. Quite frankly, I have not had any. Well, I want to say I haven't had any bad experiences with anything military or government either. Even if I did, I wouldn't be saying so on national radio. But the fact is that after there was that Sedona incident where my wife and I were out in Sedona on our honeymoon, and this craft showed up. Well, that was on a Thursday night. Friday went by fine, but Saturday, well, we had some military helicopters flying over our room and going to the area where we saw the craft. Now, it could just be that they just happened to see what we saw and decided they're going to take a look. And I'd like to keep it that way, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, they did fly right over our room and go right to the area. And I looked at my wife, she looked at me, and I said, okay, you know what? We don't know anything. We're just going to go out and get breakfast, and that's it. We'll just stay out for the day, because I didn't want anybody knocking on the door asking where I was 8 o'clock on Thursday night. So, you know, I just didn't want anything to do with that. I'm not going to bug them. I don't want them to bug me.
Well, the organization leaves it alone. We actually we will lend our support to other people working in the field, and we'll even help them out with contactees that have told us they've had this experience. Personally, that's not the area I want to be working in. Me and the government have a good understanding that I'd like to keep it that way. You know, I leave them alone, they leave me alone. I don't talk about what they don't want me to talk about, and, you know, they don't bother me. And it seems to work out. And the reason why is, and this is funny, Craig, because, you know, you hear me every now and then I'll say something about the alien agenda, but I kind of leave it alone. And that's because on at least 2 occasions in the last 5 years, I've actually been told not to discuss this in a live form, period. Not only, they were so bold the last time they came out, I run a construction company down here, I own one, I live in New Orleans, and I had a crew of about 20 guys out working a roof job one day. And I'm standing on the roof, you know, doing my job, watching them work, because that's what I do. And I see this white SUV pull up with tinted windows, and a guy steps out, and he's in a gray suit, and another guy gets out on the other side of a gray suit, and he unbuttons his jacket, pulls it out, and he points to his gun. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. I'm up here with 20 guys. Don't mess with us. We'll eat you alive. And so then he starts waving to come down. So I'm thinking this is some parole officer, bail bondsman looking for one of my boys, you know, must have got in trouble or something. So I come down the ladder, you know, I walk over there, and the whole crew comes down the ladder at this time because, you know, they're wondering what's going on here. I walk up. He says, I'm going to tell you this one time, Joe. He said, you know you've been warned about this. He said, leave the agenda alone. You know you have our permission to talk about anything you want and discuss any other topic. Leave the alien agenda alone. That was the second time they warned me. Being that I am on a lot of lonely highways and a lot of driving, I decided to take that at heed. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we have to take a break. So I want everyone to please stay tuned to Wake Up USA, a UFO study, a Stardust Radio production, now being broadcasted live in SRN 1690, Riverside, Iowa. I'm your host, Joe Montaldo. I'm sitting and speaking with Jack Jacobs, and when we return from the break, we'll start taking some more questions, so please stay tuned.
Are you looking for an internet radio station with a unique blend of talk radio and an eclectic musical flavor? Join Stardust Radio today at www.stardustradio.com, where talent and technology meet.
This internet station sounds great on your computer, but you don't want to sit around on your butt all day. You're on the move, and you need your music. This station is linked with the Mobile Broadcast Network, which makes it possible for you to hear your favorite internet broadcasts live on your cell phone, anytime, anywhere. Get connected. Go to www.mymbn.com. The Mobile Broadcast Network is brought to you exclusively by Access Voice.
Alexis Parking, your aviation destination.
You need something grand, something special, something unique. Look no further than the Alexis Park Inn of Iowa City. There you'll find 27 supersized suites of all varieties, most with jacuzzis. The Alexis Park Inn is an aviation-themed hotel where your continental breakfast is delivered right to your door because they're committed to your satisfaction. Give the Alexis Park Inn a call toll-free at 888-9-ALEXIS or check out alexisparkin.com.
Alexis Park Inn, your aviation destination. Alexis Park Inn.
If you're one of the millions of Americans that suffers from acne or knows a friend or a loved one suffering, please turn up your radio and take down this life-changing information. Introducing Epiclear, the revolutionary new advanced skin treatment imported from Europe, formulated to help get rid of pimples and prevent further breakouts. Great for all ages and most skin irritations, Epiclear is doing something that no other acne treatment formula has ever done. Ever. We're so confident that Epiclear will clear up your skin that we're willing to let you try it for free. That's right, you heard free, and we mean free. Over a $70 value delivered without a prescription right to your house.
Call now while free supplies last at 1-800-656-5993. Nothing to risk and everything to gain. Call Epiclear at 1-800-656-5993. That was 1-800-656-5993. Limit one order per household, please. Call 1-800-656-5993. Shipping and handling not included.
SRN
1690 AM, Riverside, Iowa, and around the world on the Stardust Radio Network. www.stardustradio.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Wake Up USA, a UFO study, a Stardust Radio production. Now being broadcasted live on SRN 1690, Riverside, Iowa. I'm your host, Joe Montaldo. We're sitting and speaking with Craig Jacobs. And, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get another question in here. And then there's a couple of things that Craig and I want to talk about. So, Marissa, I'm assuming that's your name. Why don't you come up, tell us where you're from, and ask your question. Maybe not. Maybe Marissa's asleep.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear me. Hello, Craig. Welcome. I'm also an admin in the iCar room. I just wanted to ask you a couple questions. Basically, dealing with the issue of also being a black male, I was wondering if you think anything has to do with the melanin or some type of breeding program, because you have to admit they're pretty pasty people. So, and the other thing also I want to know is basically, have you ever had problems with the abductions? Have you noticed as being an abductee, have you had problems with electrical surges or charges within your body? That's another thing I want to know. And thank you for coming on the show again. I've been waiting a long, long time. Long time.
Well, thank you for your questions. I do appreciate that. One thing you were mentioning about the breeding process and the fact that I'm black, it's interesting because if you think about it, of course, as far as U.S. ufology goes, Betty and Barney Hill were the first, to really talk about or to be talked about in this, and he was black. To be honest with you, I don't think race really, that's one thing that they've got something that we don't. The race doesn't really seem to make that much of a difference to them. If they've got somebody that they're interested in, or if they began with them before birth, as some have suggested, it really doesn't matter who they are. And there have been some instances where I have seen what look like, basically children, and then you just kind of look at them and kind of go, well, what is all this about? Again, it's been very brief when I've seen that, but I have seen it. And interestingly enough, my wife was in that experience too. Now, she doesn't remember anything, but it was, again, very brief. So, but I do believe that when they said our people became very sick, that may have something to do with it, and that may be the reason why they keep going for humans. And again, though, I don't think race really makes a difference. Oh, as far as the electronic stuff, yes, I want to bring that up. My back hasn't been the only thing that has set off the laser scanners and whatnot. My hands have also done things which, again, have had witnesses where people have seen this happen, and I don't know how I'm doing this. So I don't know why that has happened, and it's not just my right hand, it's my left hand too, because I know a lot of people bring in the whole right hand, and next thing you know, they'll talk about the forehead because of the Bible and what it says in Revelation. I don't have any, I'm not saying that's totally wrong, but I'm not saying that I'm going to make a decision on that. But I have noticed that both my hands have kind of set those machines off also. So, yeah, I have had some interesting times with electronic equipment.
Right, it's interesting she asked that because that's a common thing for contactees. More so for abductees, they seem to have it worse. And you know what's interesting? I noticed when I was young, the old TVs, not the new ones so much, but the old ones before cable. I know, y'all, that's a sin to say before cable, but before cable and these 5 million trillion channels we have with nothing on, if I walked by a TV, if I even got close to it, it would just switch to another station. It wouldn't physically change the channel, but it would switch on the television itself. It would just go to another station. I used to mess with Linda when we got our first cable box because I could actually sit on my couch. My TV was about 20 feet and just move my hand till I got the picture right where I wanted it. And I can't tell you how many computers I've destroyed and others have destroyed that I know that are contactees because of, well, it's not always electric fields. Sometimes it's magnetic fields, but it seems to be a combination of both. Contactees just wreak havoc on electronics. I tell people all the time now, get your ground strap. If you felt like you were abducted the day before, put a ground strap on. Wear it all day, man. It'll help. It'll save some of your electronics. It really will. It's one of those goofy things we learn, but it does seem to work. So it grounds out the magnetic and electrical field charging through your body. And contactees and abductees, especially after a recent abduction, seem to have this in abundance. Doesn't seem to cause any harm to you, but they do seem to have it in abundance, and it's a curious thing. I'm sure it has to do with some kind of fields that your body's passing through during the contact process. Whether we're aware of it or not, it does seem like something that's happening to us, because it doesn't seem like something ET is doing per se. It just seems like it's part of the process. Maybe when they bring you through walls or when they bring you on board ship, maybe there's a static charge or something, your body picks it up. And it's just one of those things that we deal with. I noticed, though, even that changes in later contacts. That doesn't seem to be as intense as it does for the people in the younger contactees.
Well, see, for mine, that seems to be just starting. I mean, again, everybody's experience is different and their timing is different. So I've also had, earlier, like years ago, when this was first going on and I was in the midst of a lot of abduction experiences, there was an experience that they showed me something with my hands. And that's actually in the book. I mean, that's something that's there's a chapter in the book that had to do with that. And as long as I'm talking about it, if you are interested in the book, it's Aware of Their Presence. My name is Craig JACOCKS, and it's available on Amazon.com. It's just as easy as that. Right now, it was independently published, so I don't have like the mainstream publisher. I don't have it in the bookstores, but you can go right to Amazon.com. You can read a little bit about it, see the ratings for it so far, and I just hope that you enjoy it. But I will say this, though, again, the hands do seem to have some kind of charge that seems to happen every now and then, and I can't explain it, but again, I've had witnesses to it at work, and we just leave it at that. Nobody really talks about it much because we don't understand it.
Actually, Craig, if I'm right and you're part of a control group, actually what that is have you ever noticed if you have any, like, latent healing abilities?
Well, now that's an interesting question because that was in the back of my mind. My wife had major surgery in 2002. She actually had cancer surgery, so luckily it was found very early, and we were able to. She hasn't had any problems since, and everything's fine. But when she came home, of course, she was very weak and she was stitched up. And I decided, well, you know what? Let me try to help you out as much as I can. I'm going to massage you, type thing, and I did. And she told me the next day that. The surgery was on her stomach. She ended up sleeping on her stomach, and she said she felt no pain as I was doing the massage because, apparently it was just coursing through her body, and she's like, look, I don't know what you did, but it really helped me. So, that's only one incident, of course. I can't do that for everybody, and I wouldn't do it for anybody else but my wife, but the fact is that, she was not supposed to be, she was in a lot of pain when she got home, and it didn't make any sense to her that after, all the hands-on stuff, that all of a sudden she doesn't feel any pain. So that's one thing that, that did come up.
Well, yeah, because I was asking, it does seem to be that a lot of contactees, I couldn't give you an actual percentage, but a lot of them do seem to have this ability, not in abundance, and it does seem it works better with someone close to them, I guess because they feel comfortable doing it. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but it does seem that it works better. Or maybe it's just because that's probably people that they're touching. It may not be anything more than that. I'm not really 100% sure, but I can tell you that we have documented enough cases that we know it's a real phenomena. It is something that they do seem to possess. That's why I said latent, because it doesn't seem to work every time. For some contactees, it seems to work more than others, but it is an ability that they seem to have and they seem to possess. And it is another way. I will tell you something else. A lot of contactees told me. They told me by rubbing on their spouse or someone that they care about, that a lot of this energy that they carry around can easily be dispersed that way. And, of course, it just also helps soothe your own body and mind. But it does seem that it works for contactees. But you got to be careful with contactees, especially if you're married to one, because if you're both empathic, it can make for a very interesting relationship. I got to say, it definitely can. But, you know, there's a couple of things that you and I were talking about at the break that I wanted both of us wanted to bring up after the break. So I'm going to let you go ahead and start from there, Craig.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, what I was alluding to earlier a little bit about, you were talking a little bit about, you know, certain human beings that might be following some contactees. I have had an experience where I've seen the same person in a span of like many years. When I mentioned, and this is in my book, when I mentioned the knee surgery where the two objects were removed, not too long before that surgery, there was a man who kept hanging around my room. And it was a Caucasian man, kind of tall, glasses, slightly receding hairline, and he kept peeking in, and he looked like he was talking to somebody else outside in the hall. And long story short, I finally got up, and I couldn't run, obviously, because my leg was going to be, operated on. So I got my crutches and tried to get out there as fast as I could. I got out there, he was gone, and I went to a nurse and said, "Nurse, did you see this gentleman?" Well, I didn't say gentleman. I think I said something else, but even as a kid, because I was mad, I didn't know who this was, and he seemed like he kept looking at me. And she said, "No, I didn't see anybody. Get back in bed." And I ignored her, and I kept walking and went to a doctor and said, "Look, there was somebody hanging around my room. I don't know who this was." He said the same thing the nurse said. Get back in bed. There's no boogeyman type thing. I was a little kid. Well, that still angers me to this day because I know I saw this guy. But as it turns out, a couple of years ago, I had a speech here in Cleveland, and this man who looked very much like the man I saw in the hospital shows up, and it's like weird because he slammed his chair right next to me outside of the aisle. I was sitting next to my wife. The crowd was starting to fill in for the speech, but he's sitting outside of the aisle, and he never said anything. He just sat there, and I remember kind of looking at him thinking, he reminds me of that guy I saw in the hospital. And when I did the speech, every time I looked at him, he tried to hide. He tried to hide behind whoever was ahead of him and didn't look at me in the eyes. So, and other people noticed this guy, too. Other people said that he was strange. They've never seen him before with this club, this organization. And so I do believe that they can kind of, sometimes people are keeping an eye on you for what, I'm not really sure.
Well, we got the keepers and then they got the watchers. Usually, though, the keepers and the watchers are usually associated with extraterrestrials, even though they are human. They seem to have a special working relationship with the extraterrestrials as far as they seem to be cooperating fully with the agenda. Most of us are cooperating in some form or fashion. Me and you are because of what we're doing. Actions speak louder than words, and we're out there putting what we know and what we think on the line for everybody to hear. Which makes a big difference, by the way. I got to say over the years, and the first time I ever got a letter like this, when my wife had met Walt Anders in person, she had started crying and telling him how much he'd helped her over the years and stuff. And, the first time I personally experienced that kind of freaked me out, by the way. It was just weird. And, I didn't realize at the time that we were making the impact that we were. These days, I understand it. I do know that we're out there trying to change the way this is perceived by the public and, more importantly, the way it's perceived by contactees. We want them to understand that this can be a benefit. It doesn't have to hinder your life. It doesn't have to hurt you.
Well, if I may intercede for a second, I was just going to say it's interesting because, one of the complaints that a lot of skeptics have is that, the people who write books about abductions and whatever like that, they're just trying to get publicity, they're trying to do whatever, and they're trying to get rich, blah, blah, blah. That's always been an excuse. They've been using that excuse for 50 years. The fact of the matter is that you know what? I don't mind talking about it, and I don't mind being seen because I'm thinking, hey, look, you get a chance to look at me. You can judge me. You can judge by the way I talk, what I'm saying, if I'm telling the truth. If I wanted to hide, I could hide, but I'm not satisfied with just having something happen to me and then just kind of let it go and just hope that it goes away. I want to know what it is, and there are other people going through this. They want to know what it is. So, some people are going to have to talk. And that's, I've got no problem with that part. I mean, yeah, I will take it so far. I mean, there's some things that I won't talk about even here. But for the most part, I'm not ashamed. I mean, I think that's what a lot of skeptics want you to be ashamed to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, skeptics hate me. Debunkers hate me worse, but skeptics hate me too, because, we work this in a very unique way. We describe this, and we don't even try to sell people anymore on the fact that these people are being contacted. We just tell them, look, we got about 11 million people reported around the world that are reporting abduction phenomena. I said, nowadays there's somewhere up in the 50, 60 million range in UFO sightings since the turn of the last century. And I'm thinking, guys, we don't want y'all to think ET's visiting the planet. We just want you to understand that there is a real phenomena that are affecting people in a real way that warrants a very serious investigation. And I noticed by presenting in that way, people seem to formulate their own conclusions and own opinions, but they seem to be moving in the right direction. They're going, well, this guy's right, man. This is an awful lot of people this is happening to. And then when you tell them only about 10% of contactees actually come forward, then the number really quicks that you're not talking about 11 million, you're talking about 111 million. And then it's really sitting in their head going, whoa, 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 So I have noticed over the years that a lot more people seem to be able to handle it that way much better. And as far as the government goes, now you can just decline to answer this question, Greg, because I don't want to get you into trouble, but have you had any contact with, like, the men in black, the men in gray, or whatever? Everybody's got a different name for them these days.
Well, not really, besides the guy that I told you about. That's the only time where I feel like I've been followed. The only other times I feel like I've been followed really have been by these grays.
Yeah.
Because two of the major sightings that I had were when I traveled outside of my home state. And it almost seems like they're trying to make sure that I'm where they think I am, as opposed to, being at home where they usually see me. So Alabama and Arizona I've had major sightings there, and again, another big span of years. So, but I haven't really had anything as far as, like, men in black really coming up to me and saying something, no.
Well, it's interesting you brought up Alabama. It's one of the states that I personally handle because I'm along the Gulf Coast down here. And Alabama has some very interesting cases, and they got some very interesting sightings all over the state, especially down around Mobile and Dauphin Island, though. They seem to be a wealth of, not so much since Katrina, but, there's not much left down there these days. But before Katrina, they seem to be, just like Gulf Breeze and Navarre Beach and all, there seemed to be, what was interesting about Katrina? We had just launched a major investigation dealing with abductions in Gulf Breeze, but not so much with the standard abductions. We had found out about an underground facility out there, and we had several people who had been there and described it, came back and told us about it, that don't even know each other. And then it was really weird because two of them had met in person at one of the conferences and recognized each other. That was just weird in itself. But they got to talking about this. Now, this wasn't a military thing because there was definitely grays here doing this, but this was definitely a military underground facility. But it does seem like the grays were running it wholeheartedly. And then there's this description of this tall, redhead doctor. This used to be abduction criteria. It's not anymore because we've just heard it too many times. But I cannot tell you how many contactees, and they all tell me the same thing. There was just something weird about him. They thought he was human, but there was something about him that was just off. And it's just a weird thing. It's one of those weird things that pops up, like the color blue. It's just one of those weird things that pops up that takes forever to figure out what it is or why it is that everybody thinks this one guy, and how does this one redheaded doctor get around so well? He's been reported all over the planet. I'm thinking, boy, this dude got some frequent flyer miles. And, it's got to be more than one of them. I would say it's probably like a group of hybrids or something that they're using. I'm not even sure, but that's what it seems like. But, you know what, I think we got time for one more question. I see Kevin, 284, has his hand up. So, Kevin, why don't you come up, tell us where you're located, and you're live and on the air.
Well, I'm Kevin. I live in Washington State, and I'm very glad you're on the show. You're very interesting.
Thank you.
We have to say. Have you met any hybrids or anything like that? and have they done any medical work? You know, let's say you
okay, have they met hybrids and have they done medical work? Was that what the question was?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Have you ever many hybrids, or have you had any like medical experiments?
Well, as far as hybrids, again, there's only been one incident where I saw what looked like a child, and it looked very human, except for a couple of the eyes, for the most part, kind of stood out that they were not what I'm used to. As far as medical experiments, there's been plenty of that. Don't mean to get too graphic, but basically there have been times where they have, amongst the examinations, they have extracted sperm. They've done things like that. That only happened once, but there have been some things that they've done that, again, I said at the beginning of the show, that they have been somewhat disturbing. Some things that even though I was not hurt, yes, they do bring you back. But on the other hand, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, what is this for? What exactly are you really doing? Now, again, I didn't have the traumatic kind of painful. I've heard some things that have been really awful that happened to some men when it comes to that particular experiment. But that didn't happen to me. But it was very obvious that was what was going on. But there have been other things too. I do remember also something being what felt like inserted through my right ear, and I don't know if there's something that they put in my brain. I mean, I have no idea. Again, I don't want to sound like a science fiction story. I don't want to make this sound silly, but I do remember that, and I do remember that being told to lie very still, do not move, and after that happened, for the next week or so, I couldn't sleep on that side because I kept getting dizzy spells. So obviously whatever it was not quite set yet, or they opened up something that they shouldn't have. But, yeah, there have been medical experiments, and, again, they're troubling, but you know that they're there. You know that they happened.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you do know that they happen. That's the hardest part, when you'd like to be able to, and I do have people ask me all the time, wouldn't it just be easier for me to lie to myself or to say I was crazy? I said, yeah, but it's not going to solve anything, and
well, exactly. You do want to, there's a part of you, a lot of people don't realize, but especially when you first start going through this, you want to deny it. You want to be able to believe that they are dreams and what people have told you that they are dreams and that this is just some kind of weird thing. But when you start having things happen like I've had, in the sense of a handprint showing up on your bed sheet, which, by the way, still has to be tested. I did go to forensics people to try to get tested, and they never called back. So there is one UFO investigator. He wants to look at that, and he wants to do some forensics work on it. But also the objects in my knee and the objects in my back, which are very evident on the x-rays. It'd be nice if somebody kind of would step out and say, especially in the scientific world, well, let's take a deeper look at this. How could they possibly get in there without this guy knowing about it? But this happened a year ago when these were discovered, and I haven't seen anybody step up. And I'd like to see somebody step up for a change instead of hiding,
What I'll do, if you got the x-rays and all, if you send me copies, there's a couple of doctors that we work with that I'll actually have to take a look at them. I mean, I can't promise you anything. I don't even know what they're going to say, but I'll have to take a look at them. And the reason why is because at the beginning of the show when we were talking about this actually happened with for me, it actually happened with a reptilian encounter, but there was 3 puncture marks. It's all been very well documented. MUFON's got all kind of photos of it, and they're on a lot of our sites now. But we got a bunch of these cases where they have these either 2 marks, one on each side of the spine, or 3 from these puncture marks, and occasionally something's left behind. Like I said, there's even been materials retrieved. What's interesting about this metal, it's a composite material is what it is actually. And it's not even really a metal, it's a composite material, but it's nothing that's not native to the planet. It's not chemicals or minerals you can't find on this planet. It's just, like people had said when they analyzed them, it was interesting that they had put it together this way. And no one could figure out exactly what it was used for. Even if it was something to puncture you, there had to be a reason why they made a puncture, so there either had to be something on the end of it, or the little pieces themselves must be some type of probe or something. I have found that this is something else you can check. You can get one of those little meters and check for an electric field or a magnetic field emanating from it. Or
what I do want to do is get a magnetic wand, one of those that they use with security or something like that, and just wave it and see where else there's a reading. Because I already know the one reading from the airport, but I like to see if there's anything else that comes up.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, because little things like that can make all the difference. A lot of times, what's funny is a lot of times if a person, you can take a magnetic reading of a person, and then a couple of days will pass and they'll say they were contacted, and that day you can take a reading of it, and the field's usually 5, 6, 7, 8 times stronger. Same thing with the electric field.
Wow.
And then you'll find in some of these implants, not all of them, but in some of them, they do have a residual field left behind. So it's one of those things. I know we're just about out of time, so Craig, let me get them. First of all, let me tell you, thanks for being on the show, man. You were great.
Oh, thank you very much.
You did a great job, but let's tell them again where they can find the book and how to find you.
Oh, okay. It's Aware of Their Presence is the name of the book, and it's available on Amazon.com or Booksurge.com. Amazon.com is a lot easier to remember, though, so you can just go right there, and it's available for anybody. Available to the public now, finally.
I'll have to get Linda to get in touch with you so I can get an autographed copy. I'll get her also. Oh, never mind. I apologize. It's sitting in front of my face. It tells you how sharp I am tonight, and I mean, it's literally sitting in front of my face. Well,
your wife said that she really enjoyed it. She really liked the book, so I mean, endorsing.
She's a critic and a half, man. She does a lot of our reviews for us on the site, and anytime she says she enjoys a book, you can take it to the bank. It was actually a good book, or it was an informative, one or the other. I've only ever heard her endorse 2 books publicly in the whole time we've been doing this. And she liked yours, so it's one of those things. So, I encourage anybody to go out and read it. Y'all, if y'all can, check it out, get a quick, pick it up, see what
I appreciate that.
Back on the show, y'all can come back and torture them about what y'all read in the book. And Craig, speaking of that, as soon as I can get some free time, I'm going to get Linda to get back in touch with you and see when we can get you scheduled back again, because I know we barely touched on anything this evening.
That's true. It seems like the time just flew by. So, yes, I'd love to talk to you again.
Oh, I would thoroughly enjoy it. And as soon as I'm going to get her to find out what our next available date is, I think, which is in November. And I'll get her to get you scheduled back on now, so it's not after the first of the year or something.
Okay.
Try to stay about 3 months ahead on guests so they have plenty of time to know what they're doing on the show. But anyway, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are completely and totally out of time, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Wake Up USA, a UFO study, a Stardust Radio production, and I hope to catch y'all all next week. Good evening.
If you would like to continue this discussion after the show, join us in ICAR's Pal Talk chat room, UFO Alien Phenomenon, under the Social Issues category.
What America needs is affordable health insurance. Finding affordable health insurance for you and your family, it's on everyone's mind right now. If you're self-employed, it's on your mind too. One of the things we face as entrepreneurial Americans is finding affordable health insurance. Well, I found a company you can call right now and get affordable health insurance. Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee. Write this number down, 877-679-7794. That's 877-679-7794. Midwest specializes in helping entrepreneurs of all kinds, those of us who run small businesses or don't get health insurance where we work, to protect our families with affordable health insurance. Call 877-679-7794. Not available in all states. Association membership is required in most states. Home office, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Exclusions and limitations apply.
Alexis Parking, your aviation destination.
You need something grand, something special, something unique. Look no further than the Alexis Park Inn of Iowa City. There you'll find 27 supersized suites of all varieties, most with jacuzzis. The Alexis Park Inn is an aviation-themed hotel where your continental breakfast is delivered right to your door because they're committed to your satisfaction. Give the Alexis Park Inn a call toll-free at 888-9-ALEXIS or check out alexisparkin.com.
Alexis Park Inn, your aviation destination. Alexis Park Inn.
You know, finding the time ain't so easy.
Not gonna find it in your coat pocket or cleaning out the attic. Time is elusive. But you can find some extra time at the Pizza Hut All-You-Can-Eat Lunch Buffet. Just a few minutes gets you endless oven-fresh pizzas with all kinds of crusts, including America's favorite, the Pizza Hut Pan Pizza, plus crisp salad and mouth-watering dessert that's ready when you are. The Pizza Hut All-You-Can-Eat Lunch Buffet, every Monday through Friday. Pizza Hut. Gather around the good stuff.
Prices, days, times, items, and participation may vary by location. Dine-in only.
SRN
1690 AM, Riverside, Iowa, and around the world on the Stardust Radio Network. www.stardustradio.com.